Welcome to Le Weekend, the bonus extended podcast episode for France News Brief. In case you missed one of our dailies, we've put together a convenient way to catch up on the stories from the past week in France, plus additional content about something related to culture, art, history, or current events at the end. If you enjoyed our daily updates, you'll find everything you need right here in a seamless recap of the week's most important headlines. Perfect for those who want to catch up in just one episode, Le Weekend is designed to keep you informed and engaged with a lighter touch at the end. Let's dive in. This is the news for Monday, December 22nd. The French postal service La Poste was the victim of a cyber attack today that rendered its online services inaccessible. Parcel and mail delivery was disrupted, but La Poste said that it remains operating normally at this stage, as reported by France 24. A high-ranking member of staff, the presidential silverware keeper, faces trial over suspected porcelain theft. The Paris prosecutor's office said that the silverware keeper and two other men are set to stand trial over the suspected theft of porcelain and other precious tableware from the collection of the Élysée presidential residence, as reported by Reuters. President Macron is in the United Arab Emirates for bilateral talks and meeting French troops for Christmas. The president is due to meet the United Arab Emirates President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan to discuss strengthening the strategic partnership between the two countries, particularly the cooperation on security and defense. The president also announced that France will build a new aircraft carrier to replace the country's flagship nuclear-powered Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier, as reported by Le Monde. The French Federation for the Electricity Sector has unveiled a plan with 50 measures to electrify France, including on electric cars, industry and housing, aiming to reduce its costly dependence on fossil fuel imports. While France produces 95% low-carbon electricity thanks to its nuclear power and renewable energies, 60% of its total energy consumption relies on gas and oil imports, as reported by Le Figaro. France is preparing a new law to ban social media for under 15s in early 2026. The Deputy Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Affairs, Anne Lenaf, announced that the bill would also include a ban on mobile phones in high schools, as reported by Le Figaro. This is the news for Tuesday, December 23rd. France's lower house of parliament passed an emergency rollover budget law. The lower house passed the emergency legislation today to keep the state running in January until a proper 2026 budget can be approved by the divided parliament, as reported by Reuters. Representatives from agricultural unions met with President Macron today. The head of the Young Farmers Union said that they reminded the president about the anger of the agricultural sector on the Mercosur Free Trade Agreement, but also on the bovine dermatosis crisis, and added that answers were expected in the first days of January, as reported by Le Monde. In related news, a new outbreak of bovine dermatosis was confirmed in the Haute-Garonne department. This brings the total to 115 outbreaks of contagious lumpy skin disease since June, as reported by Le Figaro. The European Union approved Corsair's restructuring plan. Brussels considered the 167.8 million euros in state aid from France to the company that serves overseas territories and some African capitals is compatible with EU competition rules, as reported by Le Figaro. The number of residency permits dropped after the Interior Ministry tightened requirements. The tightening of criteria for residency in France has led to a 42% drop in the amount of permits given out over the first 9 months of the year, as reported by Le Monde. This is the news for Friday, December 26th. France and Germany joined their voices to the condemnation by the European Union of the US visa bans on 5 European citizens that are combating online hate and disinformation on Wednesday after President Donald Trump's administration's decision, as reported by Reuters. In its annual ranking of the performance of 36 world economies, British weekly The Economist placed France in 11th position. The French economy fared rather well in 2025, despite the political chaos, ahead of, for example, Japan in 12th place, the United States in 17th, and Germany in 20th, as reported by Le Figaro. US President Donald Trump is the personality most talked about in the French media in 2025, according to an annual metric unveiled today by West France. This top spot usually belongs to the French head of state, as reported by France 24. Nearly 900,000 listings to resell Christmas gifts were published in France immediately after Christmas, almost tripling last year's figures of 340,000, according to figures released by eBay and Rakuten, as reported by France 24. You are listening to Le Weekend. We hope you're enjoying a peaceful holiday season. And now that you're all caught up with the main headlines from the past week, it's time for our focus story. Today we're looking at why the dishes at the French presidential palace made the news this week. The French presidential palace, also known as l'Élysée, found itself at the center of an unwelcome scandal when authorities arrested 3 individuals in connection with the theft of precious tableware and china valued between 15,000 euros and 40,000 euros, approximately between 17,000 US dollars and 47,000 US dollars. According to reports from multiple sources, the theft was discovered after the head steward at the Élysée Palace reported several items missing. The breakthrough in the case came when officials at the Sèvres manufactory, which had supplied much of the palace's fine tableware, spotted some of their unique items being auctioned online. Among the distinctive pieces were a plate bearing an Air Force stamp and ashtrays not available to the general public. The discovery led investigators directly to a high-ranking member of staff, one of the palace's own silver stewards, whose inventory records suggested he was planning future thefts. The stolen items recovered included copper pots, Sèvres porcelain, a René Lalique figurine, and Baccarat champagne glasses, all items regularly used at state dinners and diplomatic receptions. Investigators found these precious objects in the steward's locker, car, and home. The suspect, identified in French media as Thomas M., was arrested along with his partner, Damien G., who managed a company specializing in online sales of objects, and a third man accused of receiving stolen goods. According to Il Sole, the items found their way onto Vinted, a popular second-hand sales platform, highlighting how modern technology has transformed even the black market for stolen heritage items. The three suspects face charges of jointly stealing movable property listed as part of France's national heritage, an offense punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a €150,000 fine. The trial has been postponed to February next year. This incident marks the conclusion of what has been described as a tumultuous year for French cultural property security. In October 2025, thieves famously made off with priceless historical jewelry from the Louvre and other institutions, including Paris's Natural History Museum and the Maison des Lumières in Langres. With gold prices reaching more than $4,400 per ounce and silver nearly $70 per ounce in December, the theft of precious metal has become increasingly tempting. Yet this recent theft is different as it pertains to clearly identifiable heritage items and is merely the latest in far more dramatic events over the 300-year history of the Élysée Palace. The story of the presidential palace begins in the early 18th century during a period of rapid expansion. In 1718, Louis-Henri de la Tour d'Auvergne, Count of Évreux, acquired marshy land on the Rue de Faubourg Saint-Honoré, at the time merely a simple road lined with cottages, far from the elegant avenue it would become. The Count himself had a colorful backstory. He was a penniless 32-year-old nobleman who married the 12-year-old daughter of Antoine Croissat, France's leading financier, in an exchange of goodwill, a title for a substantial dowry. The Count then asked the regent of the kingdom for an honorary position, which was granted on the condition that he would build a palace in Paris worthy of the name. Construction began in 1718 under architect Armand Claude Mollet, a nephew by marriage of the famous landscape architect André Lenôtre. The building, originally known as the Hôtel d'Évreux, was completed and decorated by 1722. Built in the French neoclassical style, it was fronted by an entrance court and backed by a garden that extended toward the Champs-Élysées. The Count famously chased away his young wife on December 14, 1720, the very day of the ball celebrating the mansion's inauguration, which was attended by his mistress, the Duchess of Lesdiguières. The palace's most famous occupant came in 1753 when King Louis XV purchased the estate and gifted it to his mistress, Jeanne-Antoinette Poisson, Marquise de Pompadour. Born into the bourgeoisie in 1721, she had captivated the king with her beauty, intelligence, and elegance. The king elevated her from commoner to titled marquise, and she became one of the most influential women in France. According to records, Pompadour acquired the Hôtel d'Évreux in 1753, fulfilling her desire to be near her daughter Alexandrine, who is living in nearby Rue Saint-Honoré. She commissioned extensive modifications to the property, transforming it into a showcase of contemporary artistic taste. She encouraged painter François Boucher and took an active role in literary circles of the Enlightenment, supporting Voltaire, Diderot, and D'Alembert. She also backed the foundation of the Royal Porcelain Factory at Sèvres in 1756, the same manufactory whose products were recently stolen from the palace. When Pompadour died in 1764, the mansion went back to Louis XV. The mansion changed hands several times before the Revolution. It belonged to banker Nicolas Beaujon, then to Bathilde d'Orléans, Duchess of Bourbon, who gave it its current name, the Élysée, derived from Elysian fields of Greek mythology. With the Revolution, the Duchess fled the country and the Élysée was confiscated. The rooms were used for eating, drinking, and dancing, and later became gambling houses. The building even was used at one point as a furniture warehouse. Until in 1805, the Élysée was sold to Joachim and Caroline Murat. He was a military commander and she was the sister of Napoleon Bonaparte. The Murats made the building more grand and imperial. Caroline commissioned decorative elements from the greatest artists of the time, while Joachim mandated architects Barthélemy Vignon and Jean-Thomas Thibault with the design of the grand staircase. When they became King and Queen of Naples in 1808, they left all their French possessions to Emperor Napoleon, who resided at the Élysée periodically, calling it my sanatorium. It was here, after his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, that Napoleon returned to the Élysée and signed his abdication in June 1815. He left the palace 3 days later, bound for exile on St. Helena. In 1848, under the Second Republic, the French Parliament passed a law declaring the building the official residence of the French president. The palace was renamed the Élysée Nationale and has served as the presidential residence ever since, aside from a brief pause during Napoleon III that kept the Élysée for discreet purposes, including meeting his special friends, allegedly meeting the ladies through a connecting tunnel from his residency. Incidentally, there was a president who died within the Élysée's walls. Félix Faure, in 1899, according to accounts, was found by servants lying on the couch in the Salon d'Argent while his mistress adjusted her disordered clothing. Faure died several hours later from what medical authorities concluded was a stroke. The palace was closed in June 1940 and remained empty during the occupation in the Second World War. It was reoccupied in 1946, and then since 1959 it has been the continuous residence of French presidents to this day. Today the palace comprises 365 rooms spread across 11,000 square meters. The palace serves multiple functions beyond being the president's residence. Most importantly, it is the meeting place of the cabinet, the Council of Ministers, which traditionally meets every Wednesday morning. Among the most significant rooms is the Vestibule d'Honneur, where the president meets visiting officials and world leaders, and the Salle des Fêtes, which dominates the West Wing, inaugurated in 1889, to coincide with the Exposition Universelle. The palace, for security reasons, remains closed to the public throughout most of the year. However, during the annual European Heritage Days, mid-September, the palace opens its doors to visitors who have pre-registered online. It's a rare opportunity to explore the gardens, the Cour d'Honneur, and historic rooms, including the Golden Salon and the President's office. The Élysée Palace is staffed by approximately 1,000 employees who manage everything from security to the 320 clocks that must be wound every Tuesday morning. The maintenance of the palace's extensive collection of silverware, tableware, and crystal falls to argentiers, silver stewards, the very position from which this week's theft occurred. This recent theft, while troubling, represents but a footnote in the palace's rich and often scandalous history. It has survived revolution, empire, occupation, and republic, each era leaving its mark on the architecture and collections within. As the Élysée continues its daily work, the Sèvres porcelain and baccarat crystals, now recovered and returned, is not just a mere luxury item, but tangible link to a manufacturing tradition that Madame de Pompadour herself helped establish. The palace is a testament to the enduring power of institutions and the weight of history contained within its walls. Thank you for listening to Le Weekend, your one-stop destination for everything we covered this past week in France. Catch our daily France News Brief roundups of the main news in France every weekday, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay informed.